Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well, hope you're all doing fantastic, and that you're all having a great day. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. The last couple of weeks have been quite remarkably interesting within the cryptocurrency space. If you've been following or have been watching the last couple of videos, first of all, thank you. Second of all, if you've been looking at the actual numbers, there was apparently like a filing deadline for companies and institutions who actually got into or have been into the cryptocurrency space. And this is also, you'll see it's a very like specific number that we're going to be going over. But for those of you who were not here, we have heard that there are dozens of banks who have been buying Bitcoin. We heard from the committee of like world banking, I believe it was yesterday, that I believe 19 world banks, like central banks, have also been buying Bitcoin. They have allocations that are more than $10 billion, and that's just what they actually disclosed because a couple of banks simply chose not to answer. I'm not sure how you are able to do that for the World Banking Committee. We've had a number of large banks across multiple countries who are doing it, a large number of family offices, etc., etc. So the buying numbers have been quite significant. In question mark for me is the constantly, and I mean this across the entirety of the space. Years ago, the market would have gone completely insane for this news. Now people seem to almost not be paying attention, pretending it's not significant, acting as if we're not receiving this kind of information. If we had heard in 2017, 18, 19, maybe even 2020, that these companies and corporations had bought any Bitcoin, Bitcoin's price would have gone up. So upon even hearing yesterday that 19 of the largest banks that we know of, that we have, own $10 billion worth of Bitcoin, there doesn't seem to be any kind of excitement. I think this once again rolls into the a large number of people tend to only be paying attention to where Bitcoin's price is. Anything else that ends up happening just seemingly is not very important to anyone else. This website has very weird formatting. A lot of websites haven't gotten it together when it comes to like how to format their pages. So this is why this one looks a little bit off. Yesterday marked the deadline for investment firms managing over. So this was only for companies that are managing over $100 million worth of Bitcoin through the exchange traded funds to disclose their holdings, and the data shows that these newly launched ETF products are attracting significant interest from institutional players. This was 4 days ago. Wasn't super long ago. We had news that the Bitcoin spot ETFs just within the United States, in 128 days, they accumulated, I think, 580,000 Bitcoin. I don't get how, I truly don't. I don't understand how we're not over $150,000 per Bitcoin. I'll be completely frank, completely honest with all of you. The math doesn't make any sense. We hit $70,000 per Bitcoin a number of years ago when we did not have any of this interest, any of this movement in the market. We had fractions of it. And we had news that there were institutions who were thinking of getting into the space. We did not have a situation in 2020, 2021, where we heard that 9 companies purchased 500,000 Bitcoin, not $500,000, 500,000 Bitcoin in 128 days. I don't know what's wrong with the market. I don't know what's wrong with people. I don't know why this isn't more widespread news. We've been getting this who's in the market news past 2 weeks or so. Prices went down, and now we're getting all this extra, who's in the market kind of thing because of all the filings that had to be done. And none of this news made popular news. None of it. Not once did any of this actually make hyper popular, everyone's talking about it news. Other YouTube channels, for whatever reason, are constantly hyper fixated on the charts, where the charts are going, how high the charts are this, and the chart is that, and this golden cross and that, and Bitcoin did, and it's like, I think if more people spoke about real news and what's happening, we'd be probably price-wise where we should be. It took 128 days to accumulate 580,000 Bitcoin. That means in another 128 days, those 9 companies will have over 1 million Bitcoin. How we're not over $150,000? I don't get it. This news is also just about companies that have over $100 million. If there's a company that's holding $36 million worth of Bitcoin, they didn't make this list. If they're holding $99.9 million worth of Bitcoin, they didn't make this list. I'm not sure if it's people willingly trying to ignore this news or just pretending. It's similar to what was it? I saw, and my eyeballs rolled out of my head. There was news, and I don't know why people keep writing articles about this guy. There was news about Peter Schiff, the guy who doesn't like Bitcoin. For those of you who haven't seen, gold, after about a decade of not doing anything, finally went up in price by $200. And he was mentioning on multiple news stations how like gold was outperforming Bitcoin and Bitcoin was completely done. And I was like, you can't count? You don't understand how numbers work? Bitcoin is up millions of percent since 2009. Something that gold, I don't know who needs to hear this right now, who needs this confirmation. There is a 0% chance, zero. Do you understand the word zero? 0% chance that gold is going up by 3 million percent in the next decade. No. In the next millennia. Everyone got that? So I'm not, and that was also, of course, popular news of the day, because I think negative news for some reason has a much stronger impact on the cryptocurrency space than anything that we could be getting that kind of sets us up for success. Hearing that we've won, that these institutions are in the space, we're getting these numbers, like these aren't figments of our imagination that we're like, companies buy Bitcoin, they buy a lot. No, we're getting these numbers daily now because of obligations of them having to actually disclose these numbers. And it's like relative silence. So just always a bit odd, at least for me. According to data from Fintel, over 1,500 entities disclosed total ownership of around $10.6 billion in these ETFs. 1,500 companies who have over $100 million worth of Bitcoin ETFs did not make popular news. If this had been one company, that still would have been major news. Remember when we were getting news before that only there was one day where Fidelity and BlackRock had only accumulated, I think, 457 Bitcoin, so more than was mined in an entire day, and that was negative news that day. So I think priorities and just brain power are just not there right now. Of the 10 spot Bitcoin ETFs, Grayscale, BlackRock, Fidelity, and ARK21 shares are the top choices for professional investors. We've seen news, and I don't want to use the word confusing, but semi-confusing news that all the banks own Grayscale. And it's confusing because Grayscale has the highest fees, 1.5%, but they're all still buying from them. Hedge fund giant Millennium Management is leading the pack with $1.97 billion worth of Bitcoin ETF shares. According to a recent 13F filing with the US SEC, here's a little tweet right here. It says Millennium is king of the Bitcoin ETF holders with about $2 billion across 4 ETFs. This is out of the over 500 holders, about 200x the average for a new ETF. Majority are investment advisors, 60%, but a big dose of HFs, 25%. Never can be totally sure what HFs are up to. They were deaf big buyers, and then he has like a chart here showing, an egregious amount of numbers that are far too tiny to be able to, I can barely see this on my screen. I see the numbers, but everything else isn't. Right. Yeah. So, I guess another awesome news day that 8 billion people aren't going to pay attention to. Does anyone have an answer for me why no one's paying attention? Or rather, stop it. Okay, put your hand down. Why everyone else except for you aren't paying attention? Have any of you been talking to your families about what's been going on? Do any of your families, and I mean like honestly, have you been texting friends, family members, talking to them in person about all this accumulation? About why they're accumulating? How fiat currencies are collapsing, how the US dollar lost 99% of its value to Bitcoin in 10 years. You know how short of a time frame 10 years is? I feel like the news just isn't newsing. Like it's just not getting out there. It seems if this news comes out and we get this news, me, you, we, us right here. I get it, you get it. It's made into a video, but then it doesn't go any further than that. This was not popular news. This was not news that was popular. The last 2 weeks worth of news, every day, you can look, please by all means go look at the other videos. Every day there's been news like this. This major bank, this entity, this so-and-so owns $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. This company bought $138 million worth of Bitcoin since the beginning of May. And none of them have been popular news. Not one. What usually ends up being popular news is the daily Bitcoin went up by 1%. Where does this chart lead us? Is Bit about to do this? Bitcoin went down by 2.1%. Is Ethereum in trouble? Cardano looks like it's going to do so and so. Solana went up by 4%. Is XRP in trouble? Why isn't XRP going? And it's like, that's all that people care about is these momentary numbers, not realizing that right in front of your eyes, all the Bitcoin is being bought up. 128 days, almost 600,000. No. Sorry, that's wrong. That was for 9 of the Bitcoin ETF issuers. 9 of the companies have 580,000 Bitcoin. Why the information is incorrect? It's because I'm forgetting about Grayscale. Grayscale's numbers, I think they have around 300,000 Bitcoin. So the number is literally near 900,000 Bitcoin in 128 days. Sorry, my mistake. That was my actual mistake because I totally forgot. When we were looking at the numbers on the screen, all the numbers were specifically for the other ETF issuers. If you've been here with me since the beginning of the channel in 2016, if you were here with me since 2017, I thank you. If you've been here with me since 2018, 2019, tell me right now, right in the comment section, what would have happened to the market if we heard in 128 freaking days, almost 1 million Bitcoin had been accumulated by 10 different companies? The market did not react to any of this news. And it's probably, and I'm fearful right now, is probably not going to react either when these companies are holding 1.5 to 2 million Bitcoin by the end of this year. When all the Bitcoin's gone and there's nothing left, and people, your friends, your family come to you and they go, Bitcoin's near $500,000. How do I get some? What do I do? I can only afford $200 worth of Bitcoin. What do you think is going to happen to the world? Why do you think all these people are accumulating such huge amounts of Bitcoin right now while the prices are low, while people aren't paying attention? I was being totally serious. Do you relay any of this news to other people? Is it just you absorbing the news and then cool, okay, whatever? No one else after that? Do you understand the significance of the world reserve currency collapsing? Right in front of us. They can't get inflation under control. They cannot get it under control. We are not going to get to a world where inflation is back to 1% to 2% for the US dollar. It's mathematically actually impossible. And we even know that with a 4.8% inflation rate, that's not the actual rate of inflation because prices are rising so much quicker than that actual 4.8% number across the board for everything. The moment they lower interest rates and debt becomes cheaper, people are going to start buying more things and getting more into debt. This causes the inflation rate to rise. It's taken them 2 years to get us to 4.8%, but that's also for the consumer price index numbers. Those aren't the real inflation numbers. We saw that in another video. They said this does not include water, gas, electricity. It doesn't include rent, mortgage payments, and all these other things because it's far higher than that 4.8%. With those numbers, the US dollar has lost 99% of its value. We heard yesterday that central banks from the banking committee responded and said that instead of using that money to find a way to buy assets to be able to prop up the US dollar, the euro, and the yen, they bought Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP instead. Watch yesterday's video. When I say that people don't pay attention, that's it. It's mind-boggling. It is completely out of this world that we could get a fraction of this news, and not only does the market not move, but it's never newsworthy enough for people. So as we slip and slide into this futuristic world where the wealthy continue to be wealthier than they've ever been, when we get to a $100,000 Bitcoin, when we get to $1 million Bitcoin, I just want you to remember these moments. I really want you to remember and sit down and go, I knew this information before everyone else on the planet and no one else paid attention. This news did not exist 3 years ago. It did not exist 2 years ago. It did not exist on the 10th of January 2024. The 10th of January 2024, none of this news was out there. It didn't exist because we didn't have the Bitcoin ETFs for these companies. Yeah. It is quite significant. I know. Believe me. I just wish that 8 billion people also thought the exact same. That's the 1,500 companies who own over $100 million worth of Bitcoin each are holding $10.6 billion in the ETFs. And that does not count the other companies who are holding 999 million. Does not count them, nor does it count you or your friends or your family or anyone else you might know who's buying, or the other companies who are only allocating $500,000 into this market. Crazy, right? Crazy that we can get this news and people within crypto don't listen. That's the Grayscale, BlackRock, Fidelity, ARK21 ETF news. And yeah, let's move on. Tying directly into it, in a notable development, Canadian banking giants have entered the US spot Bitcoin ETF arena. Scotiabank and Toronto Dominion Bank. I never knew that that's what TD Bank stood for. I never knew that TD Bank was Toronto Dominion. That's quite intense. Two of Canada's largest financial institutions have revealed their exposure to Bitcoin ETF. I'm trying not to rant. You don't understand. I'm trying not to. If you missed the video a couple of days ago, we heard, oh gosh, what was it? It was Montreal Bank who also disclosed their holdings as well. And a lot of the other banks we've been hearing about, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, and there's like a ton, I don't remember there's too many names to remember. People have only found out that news because people were literally scouring through the SEC ETF filings, like literally going through the website, looking for information until they found something. Scotiabank has disclosed more than $1.5 million across BlackRock, Grayscale, and Fidelity. Once again, Grayscale is always in the conversation. Yes, from the 13F filings, Scotiabank has 486,000. In Grayscale, BlackRock, 580,000. And it comes to around $1.57 million. The banks who have actually come forward have actually told us that this is from their clients who are like desperate to get into Bitcoin. So the bank is usually buying, as always, same with the ETFs as well. They're buying on behalf of their clients. Yeah, not much more to say. It was more just an extra to let you know what's currently happening within the space. I'm actually terrified for summer 2025. Like I'm not even half joking, because I'm so eager to see where Bitcoin's price is going to be. And I know that a lot of the news is going to be chaotic at that time. The amount of people who are going to be buying, the amount of people who are going to be desperate to get into the market. I know it's going to completely change lives in multiple ways. People who are in the market or who've been buying and who understand and who get it, the amount of money to be made is going to be staggering. You can't, if this is your first bull run, bull market, bull cycle, you are in for a treat. The other people who are going to realize that they could have bought Bitcoin years ago, even fragments of Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Cardano, it doesn't matter. Years ago, or even at the beginning of this year, and the money they could have made, this is what causes the FOMO. You remember a lot of those articles that we used to get? I don't bring them anymore because they're kind of whatever. A lot of these articles, they do say, like, if you bought XRP in 2020, here's how much money you'd have right now. If you bought Ethereum in April 2020, here's how much money you'd have now. These articles always resurface again during the actual bull market, when the bull run is taking place. And I mean legitimately, they will say, if you invested $1,000 into any of these 10 coins, you'd have over $75,000 right now. And that's what causes our market to continue pumping. It's because people don't pay attention early. It's nuts. We are hearing world banks, and I air quote here, smaller banks and institutions are buying up as much Bitcoin as possible. We still know that even now, BlackRock and Fidelity are still buying more Bitcoin per day than is actually mined, than is actually created, than actually is going to ever hit the market. Yeah, we're hearing about more Canadian banks who are also buying Bitcoin news. And yeah, let's move on. So I saw this news, and I'm gonna throw this in as a word of caution for everyone out there. I saw this news. I didn't think it was a joke, but I realized nearly instantaneously what was going on. Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, might have gone into hibernation, but it says the display of respect. This is not at all what that is. A meme coin project known as Pups token on Bitcoin apparently sent 90% of their entire holdings to Satoshi Nakamoto. For those of you who don't know, there is a Bitcoin address that usually is not spoken about, that has not been touched, has not had any movements, and it belongs to Satoshi Nakamoto, or it is believed to. And I think it has over 1 million Bitcoin inside of it. And there have been instances over the years where a lot of people have literally sent coins to that address to kind of basically have those coins never enter circulation again. But this one's a little bit different. The intention of the token team was not so benevolent. They weren't doing any good, as the goal was to basically send a Bitcoin NFT or to burn it by sending it to Satoshi. In the process, they moved the funds in their treasury. Considering the fact that Satoshi remains unknown, retrieving the funds remains impossible for the team. A lot of people try doing this now, even to not only Satoshi, people still send money to that address, and I don't get the point of it. I sincerely don't. The other side of it is that a lot of people do this to Vitalik Buterin as well, but they do it once again. It's never it's never in the spirit of goodness. It's always in the form of greed. So Vitalik Buterin made one of his Ether addresses public. So a lot of people started sending him their coins. Why? Because one day we heard that Vitalik was actually into an altcoin, and people looked and saw how many of that altcoin on top of Ethereum that he actually owned. The other part is someone went, okay, well, that got that coin's price pumping. So people send their coins to Vitalik in an effort for people to see it and go, he's holding a new coin, and then people would go buy that coin. But now all that Vitalik does is that when people send him essentially free money, he converts it into Ether and then he donates it. He's like, stop sending me money all the time. I think he's received hundreds of millions of dollars, which once again to me is nonsensical, because I'm certain those people could have used those hundreds of millions of dollars for themselves or for some other cause, but that's also an entirely different discussion. When I said more of a warning, it's because a lot of times people do still not pay attention to where they're sending money and stuff like that. These YouTube videos of Vitalik Buterin and Brad Garlinghouse asking you to send them money, they're not real. But people still send their money to these things. So Just be careful with your money. Make sure you have it in a safe place. I don't know what more to say. You should all know this by now. It's your property, so take care of it. Yeah, this news was... This was actually one of the most popular news stories of the day. Because the news is that someone or a group of people sent 90% of their Bitcoin holdings to a burn address. Air quotes, a burn address. So that news ended up being more popular than the millionaires and billionaires who are buying Bitcoin. I think there's something very wrong with the cryptocurrency space when the wrong news ends up being more popular than what's shaping the world. I think that is going to do it for this video. I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever the heck you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.